Hello, once again. Welcome back to Christ's Millennial Kingdom, the 1,000 years of peace and its destruction. And we are now in part 6, the 7 trumpets of Revelation. And you can see here on the screen, you have the 7 angels with their 7 trumpets, and the earth is down here. This is just an artist's rendition, but we have the 7 trumpets of Revelation. Revelation chapter 8, verses 6 through 13. Then the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter. The fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark. A third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. As I watched, I heard an eagle that was flying in midair call out in a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the trumpet blast about to be sounded by the other 3 angels." So, we're going to be getting into some of that stuff here today. Now we got Revelation chapter 9, verses 1 through 12. The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss, and out of the smoke locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any plant or tree, but only those people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not allowed to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. And the agony they suffered was like that of the sting of a scorpion when it strikes. During those days people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the thundering of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. They had tails with stingers like scorpions, and in their tails they had power to torment people for 5 months. They had as king over them the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek is Apollyon, that is, destroyer. So we did have that way back in part 3, Revelation, but I wanted to bring it in again because now we have the fifth angel that we're talking about here. We're covering the angels sounding their trumpets. All right, so here we go. The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss, and out of the smoke locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. So this is, I believe, Napoleon's Tecumseh's comet is the star that fell and was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. This opened the abyss. This star, Napoleon's comet, Tecumseh's comet, is the one that opened the abyss. Because what happened was the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora was the most powerful volcanic eruption in recorded human history, with a volcanic explosivity index, VEI, of 7. The eruption ejected 160 to 213 cubic kilometers, 38 to 51 cubic miles, of material into the atmosphere. It was the most recent confirmed VEI 7 eruption. And what did Mount Tambora cause? Well, it caused this, the year without a summer in 1816. Remember, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. So the key to the abyss was given to that star that then erupted Mount Tambora. But also, Mount Tambora was exacerbated by the 1814 eruption of Mayon in the Philippines. So let's get into that a bit. Mount Mayon. Mayon is the most active volcano in the Philippines, erupting over 47 times in the past 500 years. Historical observations accounted its first eruption in 1616. The first eruption for which an extended account exists was the 6-day event of July 20th, 1766. Its most destructive recorded eruption occurred on February 1st, 1814. So that was the most destructive account. And out of the 47 in 500 years, including a 6-day event in 1766, the most destructive was February 1st, 1814. Lava flowed, but less than the 1766 eruption. The volcano belched dark ash and eventually bombarded the town of Kagasawa with tephra that buried it. Trees burned and rivers were certainly damaged. Revelation 9:13-21. The sixth angel sounded his trumpet, and I heard a voice coming from the 4 horns of the golden altar that is before God. It said to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, "Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." And the 4 angels who had been kept ready for this very hour and day and month and year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. The number of the mounted troops was twice 10,000 times 10,000. I heard their number. The horses and riders I saw in my vision looked like this. Their breastplates were fiery red, dark blue, and yellow as sulfur. The heads of the horses resembled the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and sulfur. 1/3 of mankind was killed by the 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur that came out of their mouths. The power of the horses was in their mouths and in their tails, for their tails were like snakes having heads with which they inflict injury. Now, before I go on, they are describing dragons here. That, quote-unquote, dinosaurs, raptors, if you will. But they are dragons. Remember when we talked about way back when the gargoyles were the serpent race that was going to come out, right? It's the gargoyles. And how did gargoyles start? And if you guys haven't seen that, go back and check. I forget which part that is. Maybe part 2 or 3. Go back and check that this is what they are describing. The way gargoyles started was that somebody killed a dragon and they went to burn the whole body, but the head and throat wouldn't burn because it was a fire-breathing thing, so its mouth was already fireproofed. And they say the heads of the horses resembled the heads of lions. Look at a Chinese dragon. It has the mustache like a lion. It looks like it has a mane of hair like a lion. Yaldabaoth is a serpent with the head of a lion. He is not the God of this world that the Gnostics say. It is what I encountered in a psychedelic experience where I laughed in the face of this dragon that was there. It was a red being. Uh, it's described in Revelation. The beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, all that. I saw it exactly as it's described, with the claws of a bear and the spots of a leopard. I saw it. So here we go in 20. The rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues still did not repent of the work of their hands. They did not stop worshiping demons and idols of gold, silver, bronze, stone, and wood, idols that cannot see or hear or walk. Nor did they repent of their murders, their magic arts, their sexual immorality, or their thefts. They didn't think that this was something, that this was a plague that God had allowed to happen because of their sinful nature. So here we go, Krakatoa. The sound so loud that it circled the earth 4 times. The 1883 eruption on Krakatoa may be the loudest noise the earth has ever made. It was heard by people in over 50 different geographical locations, up to 3,000 miles away, together spanning an area covering a 1/13 of this says globe, but of the world. The Dutch, the colonial rulers of Indonesia at the time, estimated the death toll at 36,417, while other estimates exceed 120,000. Okay, so why Krakatoa? The sound so loud that it circled the earth 4 times, right? And how many angels were released? Released the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels who had been kept ready for this very hour and day and month and year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. I don't know if 36,000 would have been 1/3 of mankind, but it's a lot of people. And again, it was fire. The breastplates were fiery red, dark blue, and yellow as sulfur. So could that also be a spiritual thing as well as a volcano? In the spiritual sense, what did that mean? Well, it could have meant this: the dark blue sky, the yellow sulfur, the fiery red. The heads of the horses resembled the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and sulfur. Fire, smoke, and sulfur. That's what volcanoes produce. April 30th, 1888, Moradabad, Uttar Pradesh, northern India. One of the deadliest hailstorms of all time killed at least 230 people and over 1,600 sheep and goats in Uttar Pradesh. The hailstones were reportedly as big as oranges and in some areas piled up to 2 feet high. No warning system existed in 1888, and therefore the death toll of this event was exceptionally high. So why do I have that? Well, because 1888 is not that long after Krakatoa in 1883. Krakatoa, if you see in red here, this is where Krakatoa popped off at. And if you were looking at the map back here, Krakatoa is somewhere back here. And the hailstorm right here. And if you guys remember, it was saying in one of these verses, that it would be the first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood. Right? Hail and fire mixed with blood. It was hurled down on the earth. 1/3 of the earth was burned up. 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Okay? So you got to remember that this may be describing the same thing in other places, just in different ways throughout Revelation. The different things may be getting described in different ways, seen from another lens. Revelation chapter 10, verses 1 to 11. Then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs were like fiery pillars. He was holding a little scroll which lay open in his hand. He planted his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. And he gave a loud shout like the roar of a lion. When he shouted, the voices of the seven thunders spoke. And when the seven thunders spoke, I was about to write. But I heard a voice from heaven say, "Seal up what the seven thunders have said, and do not write it down." Then the angel I had seen standing on the sea and on the land raised his right hand to heaven, and he swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created the heavens and all that is in them, the earth and all that is in it, and the sea and all that is in it, and said, "There will be no more delay. But in the days when the seventh angel is about to sound his trumpet, the mystery of God will be accomplished, just as he announced to his servants the prophets." Then the voice that I had heard from heaven spoke to me once more, "Go, take the scroll that lies open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land." So I went to the angel and asked him to give me the little scroll. He said to me, "Take it and eat it. It will turn your stomach sour, but in your mouth it will be as sweet as honey." I took the little scroll from the angel's hand and ate it. It tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I had eaten it, my stomach turned sour. Then I was told, "You must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings." They're talking about the Statue of Liberty here, folks. That's what the Statue of Liberty represents, not that they're talking about the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty represents this angel, robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs were like fiery pillars. He was holding a little scroll which lay open in his hand. He planted his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. Right? And God didn't let John, who's the author of Revelation from the Gospel of John, he didn't allow John to write down what was said so that we wouldn't know that part. The angel giving him the scroll, taking it and eating it, turning his stomach sour, but in your mouth it tasted sweet as honey. That's the American dream. It's gonna taste as sweet as honey, but once you realize what it is, that it's just a dream, it turns your stomach sour. And remember, it said, "But in the days when the seventh angel is about to sound his trumpet, the mystery of God will be accomplished, just as he announced to his servants, the prophets." Well, guess what happened last year? This year, 2022. The eruption in Tonga was so intense it caused the atmosphere to ring like a bell. Okay? So, in the days when the seventh angel is about to sound his trumpet, the mystery of God will be accomplished, just as he announced to his servants, the prophets. So, the days when the seventh angel is about to sound his trumpet, the mystery of God will be accomplished. So people in 2020 started waking up, right? Interesting side note, the Mayan calendar, it said December 21st, 2012 would be the end of the world as they know it. Well, if you look at the Ethiopian calendar, is 7+ years behind us. On December 21st, 2012, for Ethiopia, it was December 31st, 2019 for us in America and the rest of the world out that doesn't use Ethiopia's calendar. December 31st, 2019. So 2020, the beginning of 2020, was the mystery of God being accomplished. That's what was happening. The seventh angel was about to sound his trumpet. The Hunga Tonga Hunga Haya Pai eruption reached an explosive crescendo on January 15th, 2022. Its rapid release of energy powered an ocean tsunami that caused damage as far away as the U.S. West Coast, but it also generated pressure waves in the atmosphere that quickly spread around the world. The atmospheric wave pattern close to the eruption was quite complicated, but thousands of miles away it appeared as an isolated wave front traveling horizontally at over 650 miles an hour as it spread outward. NASA's James Garvin, chief scientist at the Goddard Space Flight Center, told NPR the space agency estimated the blast was around 10 megatons of TNT, equivalent about 500 times as powerful as the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan during World War II. From satellites watching with infrared sensors above, the wave looked like a ripple produced by dropping a stone in a pond. That, I think, was the seventh angel sounding the seventh trumpet. All right, so Revelation 11, 1-14. I was given a reed like a measuring rod and was told, "Go and measure the temple of God and the altar with its worshippers, but exclude the outer court. Do not measure it, because it has been given to the Gentiles. They will trample on the holy city for 42 months, and I will appoint my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. They are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands, and they stand before the Lord of the earth. If anyone tries to harm them, fire comes from their mouths and devours their enemies. This is how anyone who wants to harm them must die. They have power to shut up the heavens so that it will not rain during the time they are prophesying, and they have the power to turn the waters into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they want. Now when they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up from the abyss will attack them and overpower them and kill them. Their bodies will lie in the public square of the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. For 3.5 days, some from every people, tribe, language, and nation will gaze on their bodies and refuse them burial. The inhabitants of the earth will gloat over them and will celebrate by sending each other gifts, because these 2 prophets had tormented those who live on the earth. But after the 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered them, and they stood on their feet, and terror struck those who saw them. Then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." And they went up to heaven in a cloud, while their enemies looked on. At that very hour there was a severe earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and their survivors were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. So the 2 prophesiers. Revelation chapter 11, verse 15-19. The 7th angel sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven which said, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Messiah, and he will reign forever and ever." And the 24 elders who were seated on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshipped God, saying, "We give thanks to you, Lord God Almighty, the one who is and who was, because you have taken your great power and have begun to reign. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come. The time has come for judging the dead and for rewarding your servants, the prophets, and your people who revere your name, both great and small, and for destroying those who destroy the earth." Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant, and there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a severe hailstorm. So remember in here that it says in 18, the time has come for judging the dead. There is no judgment when people die, there's no individual judgment by Jesus Christ. Everyone judges themselves. But there is only one judgment time. Only one. And it has not occurred yet. That's when people get sent to hell. Not that maybe people aren't in hell. I was certainly in hell when I was in my addiction and all that. But a physical place, I don't know if that exists at the moment for humans who have died. The abyss, I believe, certainly exists, but an eternal hellfire, I don't know about. But this specifically says the time has come for judging the dead. And that is it. I don't know why Christianity and churches think, and people have it in their minds now, Americans, your average American, thinks that the Christian church is saying that you're going to be judged as soon as you die. That's not what happens. The time has come for judging the dead and for rewarding your servants, the prophets, and your people who revere your name, both great and small, and for destroying those who destroy the earth. Only happens one time. Okay? But remember 19 right here. Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant. And there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a severe hailstorm. So what happened? Well, defenders of the lost ark, hundreds of worshippers protected Ark of the Covenant as Ethiopian rebels and soldiers battled near church where it is secured, it is revealed. So this is the church. Worshippers were defending the church of St. Mary of Zion in holy city of Axum. The church is said to be where the Ark of the Covenant is secured. The Ark is believed to house stone tablets etched with the Bible's 10 Commandments. Ethiopian soldiers and those from Eritrea have been fighting rebel forces. The fighting at the Church of St. Mary of Zion between Eritrean soldiers and rebel Tigrayan militia saw up to 800 people killed. On December 15th, 2020, 750 church members reportedly died trying to defend the Ark from federal Amhara soldiers. So these are two different sites that I pulled from. One saying up to 800 killed, and then the next line says 750. So it's about there anyway. So the importance of this is what it just said was in the book of Revelation. Let's go back to it. Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant. And there came all these different things, right? December 15th, 2020. It's just all happening right around the same time. Well, what else happened in 2020? Intense lightning mega flashes stretched almost 500 miles across 3 U.S. states. The bolts, which occurred in 2020, broke records for distance and duration. The single flash extended 477.2 miles across Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi in April of 2020. So you guys can kind of make out the states here. You got Louisiana here. You can see that's obvious. So, Texas is next to it on this side, Mississippi on the other side. This is one lightning flash going from Texas to Mississippi, almost 500 miles in 2020. What else happened in 2020? Industry loss from Australia's January 2020 hailstorms raised to 1.9 billion Australian dollars. The unusual hail event struck the states of Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland, as well as the Australian Capital Territory within a 3-day period, with the largest impact witnessed in Canberra, which suffered from hailstones up to 6 centimeters in size. So, all happened in 2020. You guys remember that? As soon as, the calendars turned 2020, you had Trump killed Soleimani with a drone strike. You had the Australia had the hail and the wildfires, right? The hail and fire. I mean, it's all happened. Everything is happening or has happened. We're at the very end here, folks. Not much longer, several years, but we're getting into the nitty gritty here. All right. Well, I forgot to add this part in. So in Revelation 11:19 it says, "Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant, and there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a severe hailstorm." Well, we covered the ark being revealed. We covered the lightning strikes going from Texas to Mississippi across Louisiana. And we also covered the hailstorm in Australia, all in 2020. Well, then we have these mysterious booms that have been happening since 2012. It's very strange. That's strange timing, 2012, of course. So I just grabbed a couple headlines here to add this in. So at the top here, we got more mysterious rumbles reported in Tucson area, published January 25th, 2022. These mystery booms have been happening for years. They've been described by many like an earthquake, but don't register as one on the seismometer at the University of Arizona College of Geosciences. That's the case with Monday's boom. I reached out to our local military installations. Davis Monthan Air Force Base says none of their aircraft produced a sonic boom Monday afternoon. Mysterious unexplained booms in Alabama, Georgia, Wisconsin, March 23rd, 2012. Now, the reason why I have the 2012 one in here is because Georgia has been experiencing this as well. And I've moved to Georgia and we've been hearing these booms. It hasn't happened so much lately, but it was going on for all 2021 in the summer and in 2020 in the winter into 2021. And I remember specifically seeing articles about it being in Georgia and Ohio and other places. Well, it turns out when I went to go pull it up that Georgia has had a number of articles written about these mysterious booms since 2012. 2012, 2016, 2018. There's a number of articles about these mysterious booms in Georgia. And we all know the song goes, "The devil goes down to Georgia," right? And just keep in mind Georgia for later in the series. So getting to the article, it is a warm, breezy afternoon with plenty of sunshine. Outside you can smell the flowers blooming. In the horizon, the sky appears slightly tinted with a green haze as the pollen swarms the air. Birds are chirping and the bees are flying from flower to flower. Spring has finally arrived. Everything is perfect and carefree. All of a sudden, the serene and peaceful landscape screams, "Boom!" The ground slightly shakes and it feels like a large tremor is occurring. Well, yeah, your whole house shakes. I mean, our house shakes, literally. I've had episodes where I've been recording and Mimi and I have discussed it in the middle of an interview. The shaking of our house going on from these loud booms. It sounds like, and I've said it before, it sounds like someone's trying to break into the firmament or out of the firmament. That's exactly what it sounds like. I don't know that to be true, but that's what it sounds like to me. And of course, the military isn't going to say that that's what they're doing, but they will say that the Air Force Base hasn't produced anything. But maybe something is breaking in. I don't know. So here's this picture here. This is from New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts boom reports. And I mean, it's all over. Mystery boom heard across parts of New Hampshire. USGS says no earthquake. FAA says not military jets. So this is going on all around the country. So we got one more page here. What's behind the mysterious booms heard around East Texas? Posted January 5th, 2022 and updated January 5th, 2022. Chandler, Texas. Houses shaking and loud explosions are what people in several East Texas towns say they experienced this last week. Now East Texans want to know who and what is to blame. No one is positive about what could be causing the heavy noises and shaking, but there has been some speculation. Mysterious loud booms shake local homes. Posted January 4th, 2021. Updated January 5th, 2021. Hundreds of people called into the Forsyth County 911 center this weekend, reporting that they felt an explosion. The dispatch center was overwhelmed with calls. Those 4 loud booms were heard both Saturday and Sunday in different areas in the triad. The source is still a mystery. And I didn't get the state of that one, but these are all over the country since 2012, but it's really ramped up since 2020. So I wanted to add that in because it goes along with the rest of the presentation. So that's the end of part 6. Please like, share, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let me know what you think so far. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 5 yet, go back and watch them because I'm leading you through a timeline of events from starting with what was the millennial reign into today's events and where our place in history is, as well as the destruction of the millennial kingdom and how it was destroyed. So if you guys haven't seen parts 1 through 5 yet, go back and watch that. All right, I will see you on the next one.